My question is regarding Patrice Rennie. I'm just curious what you've seen of him this year and how he's grown as a player throughout his time with North.
Sure. Patrice, unfortunately got injured last year, the second game of the season, and really worked hard at rehab. And it was, with the pandemic, it was hard for him to rehab. He had to go back to Canada. We had to get an embassy to let him back into America, and probably put him a little bit behind with his rehab. But he's really done a great job and played really well for us at times. And I think he's been, when maybe some of it probably hasn't been quite as much playing time as he would have preferred. But he's been a great leader and a great captain, and I think he will have a chance to play in the Canadian Football League for 100 years. So I think he's a great kid, and I'm looking forward to watching him as he continues to play.
All right. Next question comes from Pranav. Rama, go ahead.
Coach Bateman, I was just wondering, in terms of A&M's offense, how do you guys look to limit their production on Saturday?
They're a really good offense. They're like the offense you would think a top, 2 or 3 team in our country would have. They're number 2 in the country on third downs. I think Kellen Mond is a terrific football player. Really, really smart, doesn't get fooled. Really impressed with him. I think the offensive line is one of the best, if not the best offensive lines that we've played since we've been here. And then I think the 2 running backs, 28, so tremendous players, all SEC as a sophomore. You can look back at, I pulled this up for the DBs last week when they announced the All SEC, and it was like the last 10 years of All SEC tailbacks, and they're pretty well known guys, right? So, and then the kid who I think is a tremendous football player is number 0. He plays running back, he plays slot receiver, he plays outside receiver, and he is a tremendous football player. So we got a real challenge on our hands. Obviously, we're gonna have to do a really good job up front, and that's where it all starts. And from there, we'll have to cover them. And they're going to force you to make competitive throws and play competitive coverage, and that's going to be the key in the game, I think.
Thanks, Coach.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's go over to Ross Martin.
Hey, Jay, as you may know, Chaz Straz opted out, and we expect, I guess y'all expect Eugene Asante to step in at that linebacker position. What do you expect from him? How does he compare to Chaz? How is he different? And I know he was a late add to that class. What do you like about him, or what did you like about him as a prospect that's going to lead to what he's going to do for y'all on Saturday and in the future for UNC football?
When I got hired, Eugene was a kid I knew about, and I thought he was a tremendous high school football player. And I think I got hired and talked to Tommy about him. Tommy watched him and got on a plane to go see him because we were pretty positive about him. A little bit of a late bloomer. Played tailback most of his high school career, and then kind of became a linebacker as a senior and really started to blow up. Eugene is a terrific football player. We've said all along, we want to play him more. Well, now is his chance. So, I think, Eugene can really run. He's really athletic. I think a lot of the things Chaz does for us in coverage, a lot of things Chaz does for us is being the extra run defender. Eugene will do a great job with. And I'm looking forward to seeing him play. Chaz was a tremendous player. I wish I had them both, but Eugene will do a great job. Everybody on our defense staff is extremely confident in Eugene, not just in this game, but in the next however many years we have him. So we're very confident in Eugene, and he should be very confident in himself. He's really worked hard to get himself to this position.
Have you seen anything, or what have you seen from him in practice leading up to today and to the Orange Bowl? And I mean, are there any challenges that he's had to to get used to this role, or can you kind of give some insight into how he's doing leading up to this role?
Honestly, Ross, I think Eugene prepared every week knowing that he could be, an injury from playing. Every time Chaz has had to come out, we've stuck him right in. So I think Codry Jackson's done the same thing behind Jeremiah Gimmel, so we've said all along, we got a lot of confidence in those kids. Has he prepared a little bit differently because he's absolutely the starter and taking more reps and all that stuff? Yeah. But, Eugene has worked really, really hard every week he's been here to play. And so, part of the great thing about coaching, right, is you get a kid like this and you get a chance to let him go play, right? I could not be more excited to watch him play, and I think he's going to play great.
Great, thanks.
Yes, sir.
Let's go over to Andrew Jones.
Hey, Coach, I'm going to stay on Eugene here for a minute. Back in August, you kept telling us how excited you were about his potential and that you had to get him on the field. And you said it a couple times during the year. Was it just didn't matter that Chaz was so good, you just couldn't take him off the field, and that's why Eugene didn't get on more?
So we played him against Virginia Tech. We tried to play him at like nickel a little bit. And it just, some of the things that were a little bit more DB skills than he probably has right now. Not that he couldn't do it, but he just hadn't practiced it. That obviously didn't go very well for us. But, Chaz is probably going to be a top 30 or 40 pick in the NFL draft. And it just was hard to take him off the field, and we would talk every week. Tommy and I would talk and say, we should put Eugene in for this. We should put Eugene in for that. And it just, to pull Chaz out was really hard, but I promise you, I don't know if there was a better backup on our football team than Eugene Asante, all right? As far as like a guy that didn't play and you knew if he went in the game would play great. I mean, Andrew, I'm just telling you, I can't wait to see this kid play. He's going to make a bunch of plays. And, he plays the will linebacker on our defense, which makes a lot of the tackles, and he's going to make a lot of tackles.
How did those conversations go when he knew maybe he was ready to get on the field and play a lot, but obviously there was that dude in front of him? And you kind of had to amend the mindset any during the course of this process?
I give him a lot of credit. He went over to special teams and was he was playing 25, 30 snaps a game on every special team, and we tried to get him in on some third down stuff, and he embraced his role. I think Eugene's well aware of how great a player Chaz is. So I think he saw like, hey, look, I got a great player in front of me, and that when my time comes, I'll be ready. And we told him every week, like, look, you're playing linebacker. You're not playing, kicker. Like, you could get hurt. Chaz could get hurt any minute now, right? So, you better be ready to go. And I really believe he prepared that way. And it showed, the first day of practice, he walked out there like, it wasn't like, who's going to go to Will? Like, everyone on the defense knew Asante was going in. And he's prepared, and he's going to play really, really well. I promise you, Andrew, right? My concern is not Eugene Asante. My concern is tackling 28-0 with everybody. All right, and Eugene's going to play great.
Thanks, appreciate that.
All right, our next question will come from Greg Barnes.
Good afternoon, Jay. Mac talked up the similarities between A&M and Notre Dame and kind of what they did and how they were structured. Could you speak to some of the differences in schematics offensively for those teams?
Sure. I think Notre Dame was a little bit more committed to 12 personnel, with the two tight ends in the game. I think Notre Dame's two tight ends are both great players. I think Texas A&M's tight end is a first-round pick. So they're a little bit more, in the 3 wide receiver world. I guess really, number 0 is kind of a running back, kind of a receiver. I think the biggest schematic, Texas A&M does a lot more schematic-wise in the pass game, a lot more formation-wise. They're going to make you defend a little bit more, of the pass game than Notre Dame did, but a very similar commitment to the run game. And where Notre Dame, I think, was it was going to be more play actions and quarterback runs. Texas A&M is going to say, okay, if you're going to insist on taking the runaway, then we'll spread you out and throw it. I think the two quarterbacks are very similar, both really veteran guys that can hurt you with their feet. So I think there's a lot of similarities. I think Texas A&M has got a little bit more varied pass game, to be honest with you, Greg.
Okay. And from your perspective, really the last 3 games is when your defense really seemed to take off. What do you attribute that to? Just the performance, especially against Notre Dame and Miami?
I think we had some young kids that have improved. I think our kids have done a better job managing some of the situations we were in. I honestly think we talk all the time about what's important to us and what our standard is. And I think we went through a couple weeks there where we didn't really back that up. And I think once we kind of got back to that, we kind of refocused before the Notre Dame game. I felt like some of our senior leaders, some of our older guys, Tamon Fox and Jeremiah Gemmel, who you're going to hear from in a little bit, did a great job of kind of saying this isn't what we want to be. And our kids played really well against some really good offenses. So our kids are excited about the challenge. It's a huge challenge, but that's why they came here, right? It's to play in these games.
Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Our next question comes from CL Brown. Go ahead, CL.
Jay, this is kind of crazy to be asking, but who will be the backup if Asante has to come off the field for some reason? Who's backing him up now?
Connor Jackson has played Mike and Will. He could go in, and we got a freshman in Cedric Gray who I think is a dynamite young football player. So one of those two would go in, and we'd feel pretty confident about those two guys also. But Tommy's done a great job in that room. You know, Jeff Schottmer and Tommy Thigpen, who work with our linebackers, I'm very confident with any of those guys going in the game. Obviously, you know, Chaz and Gimmel are really, really good players, really veteran players. They played most of the snaps. And I think Eugene will play a strong percentage of the snaps, but, you know, Cedric would go in or Kadri would go in and we'd be fine.
Yeah. And do you change any of the calls, like to tailor specific to Eugene's strengths, or to the flip side of that, to stay away from his weaknesses, or the system is the system, you know, and you're going to stay with this scheme and he's plugging into it?
You know, so I think Eugene and Chaz have a lot of similar skills. And I think when we recruit for that position, we're looking for that kind of guy. So, I mean, certainly there's some changes. I don't really want to I kind of want Texas A&M to figure those out about halftime. See how, you know what I mean? So there'll be some changes. All right, but honestly, they're very similar guys. They both are really athletic. They both can really run. So I think there'll be a lot of similar. There'll be way more similarities than there will be differences.
All right, thanks a lot.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's go over to Robert Cessna.
Yeah, hey, Coach. I was just wondering, I assume your first matchup against Jimbo Fisher calling plays, and just wonder if you get a feel for the way he calls games. Does he remind you of any play caller you've gone up against in your career?
Well, I haven't. So I've been talking to Stacy Searles for the last 2 weeks because he was his O-line coach and trying to get a bead for him. I think he's a tremendous football coach. I think he's a tremendous play caller. He does a lot, you know, so I think schematically he gives you a lot of conflicts, probably as many conflicts as anybody we've played, you know, so, you know, I have a lot of respect for him, a lot of respect for their players. I don't know if he reminds me of anybody else, but I do think this. I think he's committed to running the football, and if you don't stop the run, that the rest of it doesn't really matter. So I think, like a lot of people, that's where it starts, and he's got some really talented kids to run the football with and a really good O-line. So that's kind of been our focus, but he definitely is going to give us some challenges for sure.
And if I could do a follow-up, since us Texas Riders haven't seen a lot of North Carolina, how would you characterize your defense?
I don't know. I think we like to kind of be aggressive. We want, you know, try to, I don't know, defend the run, try to take the run away and make you throw the ball. I don't know. Pretty multiple. Do a lot of different fronts. So hopefully you're going to say, man, that Bateman guy's pretty smart.